I know you have an Irish bar, and Irish bars need trophies, right. And we decided to give you a trophy for your Irish bar, okay?
Thank you very much, thank you.
There
we go.
And every Irish bar has, like, I don't know, jerseys and stuff like that.
Top, yeah.
So,
thank you very much.
Welcome everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. You know, I did see this in your hand, and I was wondering what it was. So cheers, thank you.
So we talked about getting together about a month ago, and that morning you decided to do a concert at King's Cross, some pop-up concert, and I had to go to Paris. So I guess we're catching up now, but in front of 200 of our friends. So how are you doing?
Yeah. Great.
How's everything going? You know, I was told that you were here 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And 13 years ago, I think you were in the middle of 18. Or
yeah, I would have been, yeah. That would have been 2012. Yeah, so yeah, middle of 18. And I guess just about to go on my first US tour, which is where we met at South by Southwest.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Oh, there we go. That's me.
So, a few weeks before 18, and you were gigging around London 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And how was that experience? I mean, do you remember that time? Or
yeah, really well,
is it a blur?
No, I guess it's kind of a blur, but I think I remember that time more than I would remember the sort of like whirlwind afterwards, just because it was like, I guess my formative years of learning how to perform and be a adult, I guess. I moved up here at 17 and sort of learned, how to live on my own and whatnot.
Do you remember being here 13 years ago, coming to Zeitgeist, or is this?
Yeah, sure.
I'm curious, was anybody in the room here? Yeah?
Oh, cool.
Okay,
amazing.
Wow.
Love it.
Now you're playing stadiums and all over the world.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey. It's sort of like, as I said on the video before, like YouTube's been like such a, it was my first kind of outlet. I mean, there's just so many things now for new artists to be on. And I found it was actually helpful back then just to be on YouTube and MySpace and just have like 2 formats that people could find your music. And yeah, I remember uploading my first video when I was 15, and it became like a key part of my breakthrough, I think.
What was that upload? We remember because we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. So we've been celebrating the 20-year anniversary of YouTube.
Wow, so I would have been on it a year after you set it up.
It's kind of crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. It was a song called Open Your Ears, and yeah, I quickly put it on private when I got successful, because I was like, I don't want people to hear that. But you know, it's like part of the journey, I guess.
So I remember, first of all, I remember us meeting at South by Southwest. Just for the audience, I was running your label.
Yeah, and I remember you sat me down. I don't know if you remember this, and you were like, Ed, what I'm going to do with your record is I'm in the field with a gun, and I'm just going to be shooting at motherfuckers, and then when I'm out of bullets, I'm going to chuck the fucking gun. Do you know what I mean? And I was there like. Do you remember that?
It actually didn't take all the bullets. I remember getting a phone call from our MD in Australia.
Yeah, totally.
That you started exploding out of Australia, and everybody was telling me that the subject matter of your first song and video was too difficult. And I thought people were overthinking it, and so I was committed to...
I think the key to America was not showing people the video or telling people what the song was about because the song kind of became a hit, and then people found out. Because I do think, yeah, you're right. If you were to put that to radio programmers 13 years ago and say, this is what the song's about, then yeah, they probably wouldn't have programmed it. I think the key was just like, ignorance is bliss.
I believe that. How does it feel? You know, people always ask me about my career and the artists that I enjoy working with, and I've always told people my interest is the front end, the discovery part, the early part.
Yeah.
I'm less interested in the when they become superstars and when there's nobody in the dressing room.
So does that mean you don't like me anymore, then?
Well,
no, I'm very. To be honest, mate, I'm very similar. Like, I love creating music. I love being in the studio and making it. And it's almost like, and I love performing, but it's almost like the middle bit that you have to do to then perform the song is the least interesting bit. It's the kind of like releasing it and getting it out in the world. That's the bit that doesn't fill me with like joy. I actually get quite like anxious and nervous about putting songs out, but the joy that you have in the studio and the joy that you have on stage, you kind of have to have that bit to link it up. I'd say like the middle bit I see as work, and these two bits are just the fun part. But yeah, I understand exactly what you mean though. It's the kind of excitement of the unknown and the what if, and I think that's the most exciting thing about creation in general, whether it's creating a record label or creating an artist's legacy or creating music or videos or whatever. It's like the actual process is far more fun than the release of it, I think.
and what about performing in stadiums versus clubs? How do you get this intimacy at a stadium, and how does that work? Which is your favorite venue to perform? Like, for everybody in the audience, like when they have an opportunity to see you in an arena or a stadium, or, you know.
I think the way I describe it is it's like food. Like, I don't want to have a steak every single day of my life. And I would see that as a stadium is an amazing platform and venue to play. But honestly, if you did it every day, you'd be like, I want to do something different. That's why I did a pop-up show in Sheffield yesterday to like 500 people in the town square, and I'm playing this week. I'm going to go and play a pub, and then I'm going to play a theatre, and then I've got a stadium in Madrid next week. I love the balance of it. I just love performing, and I don't want to just be like rigid, because a lot of artists get to a point, obviously, when you play stadiums, you go, right, that's all I'm going to do because it financially works out, and then you have your time off in between. But like, I really enjoy performing, and I would get so bored just being a kind of mechanical artist that moves from city to city, just doing big shows. Yeah. I love doing the stuff in between.
I was visited by your record label, and they came to play me some of your music. And I was on the way to Mumbai for the Waves Conference, which was Modi trying to create a Davos South by Southwest music and entertainment and big event. And I met Diljit, and I heard some Indian vibes coming through your records. And I was so proud of you, because I personally love artists that feel like they're the travel agents for their fans, and you definitely are taking them on a journey, a musical journey. The melodies and the musicianship that is coming out of India is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And they're gone from just Bollywood type of music to actually independent artists claiming a position in the Indian music market. So to hear that you're like tapped into Indian music and other types of music is incredible.
It happened quite naturally, because I have toured India for the past sort of like 10, 11 years. And the more and more I went back there, the more, because when I first went there was like no metric to like, I didn't even know if I would sell tickets there, because there was no metric of you've sold this amount of records, you've done this. So you kind of just had to go there and see. And it's like by far my biggest market, and I didn't know that until I went there, and then the more you go there, the more you meet local artists and local producers and local musicians, and then like I've never been one to just hop in. I think that you kind of have to get invited in, and you know, the first time someone's like, hey, we should like try something, and then it just sort of happens very naturally. But I think the kind of localization of music in general globally, I think was one of the like things that COVID did, was everyone just sort of started looking at their own countries for superstars, and I think it's made for a much more interesting global music landscape. It's not just like 10 artists that run the music industry, and I feel like that's to the detriment of my career, but also like the kind of pushing forward of everything else, and I think that that's made it more exciting and music worldwide more accessible to everyone.
What about other musical influences on this album coming?
Do you know, I had like a lot of fun. We obviously finished the record in Goa in India, and I had the like Indian musicians play over the whole thing. But one of the producers of the record is Iranian, and we made, you know, Persian influenced music. I brought in my dad's Irish. I grew up with like trad Celtic music in my household, so we brought some of that in. And then obviously there's just acoustic stuff, and it's quite a wide-ranging record. But there is a thread that sort of runs through it, which is because we finished it in Goa and had the musicians play on every single track. It does have this kind of like thread of India through it.
Tell me about your favorite market to perform. Do you have any favorite places to perform?
It's less markets and more cities. And I think the best place on this last tour we played was Paris for some reason. And France has always been such a slow market for me. And something had clicked in the last like 7 years, and they're just mental. It's like it's. Have you ever been to a Paris Saint-Germain game?
Oh my God!
And like I thought English football fans are nuts, and then like sitting in the crowd, and they just keep going. They're just jumping with flares for the entire time. So it was kind of that. It was also around like the Euros. France was in the semi-final. I think we played the day of the semi-final, so the audience were pumped.
So this year we're at YouTube claiming in the music department the renaissance of the music video and storytelling.
I don't think it's ever left, by the way. I think that I do get like, obviously short form content has become more popular, but I don't think that great music videos have lost their, much like great songs. I mean, like there are, I don't know what the number is, maybe like 100, 150,000 songs released every single day, and it's probably the same with music videos. But if a music video is great, it still transcends everything, and I think it's the entry point for music and video now is much higher, but if it clicks, it really clicks. And I found that like early on in my career, I would have like 5 or 6 things per year that would click. And they would sort of click medium amounts, whereas now you'd have one thing a year that clicks, and it's like all-encompassing. And I think people nowadays, I think, love familiarity. So you have to, I think, see a video 10, 15 times, hear a song 10, 15 times before it really clicks. So it means things take longer for virality, I guess, but it means they just remain.
That's why we called it the Renaissance. We don't think it went anywhere, but I think that we need to double down on storytelling and intentional video, because exactly what you said with the evisceration of distribution, and now how inexpensive it is to make music. It's coming from all over the world. The platforms have democratized the opportunity for artists. We think that video becomes even more important.
Yeah, it's never going to lose its importance, I think. I just think that videos and music, there has to be a point to it, and it has to matter for it to, because there's so much out there, you have to really like have something that you stick in the ground, tent pole, and be like, this is worth watching. It can't just be like, it can't be an 80% there video, it has to be 110%.
Right, which before, you could be, because there was just so few records, artists, and videos that you didn't have to actually bring it. Now I think intentionality is even more important.
But it's not just music or video now. I think that nowadays there's so much out there trying to pull your attention away from whatever you're doing at that point that like even just having a song or a video that's great isn't enough. It has to be like excellent to even pull, like even like I like following sport. I've got kids, I've got family. Obviously, there's lots going on in the news that you follow. I like watching movies, I like watching TV shows, and my attention is just here the whole time. So it really has to be something that really sticks out for me to go, I'm going to take 3 minutes of my time and check that out.
Do you have a favorite music video of all time?
That I've made, or just in general?
Anyone. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a random niche one. It's a band from the UK called McFly, and they have a song called Room on the Third Floor, where they are all like, do you know what Airfix models are? Or like, they're like the models that you would glue together as a kid and paint, but it was such a clever video, and they're all just parts of the Airfix model, so it's like a drummer's arm doing that, but on a bit of plastic, and it's a very clever video, but like...
Is this before?
This is like 2004, I think, but I remember watching that video as a teenager and just being like, this is such an incredible concept for a music video. As a teenager that liked making Airfix stuff. I don't know, like, stuff like that, you know, just doing a music video where you're singing to a camera or like, I don't know, I don't find that necessarily memorable. I think that stuff has to really stick out. And yeah, that, however long that is, 20 years old, and I still remember that video.
And Shape of You is at 6.5 billion views. Would that be your favorite Ed video?
It's funny that video happened by accident. We had a video concept that was sort of pitched to us, which was me jumping out of an aeroplane and learning the song backwards. I basically spent a month with a dialect coach learning Shape of You backwards. And then we were going to fly on the Friday to Cape Town and jump out of a plane and do take after take after take of me singing backwards. And then the video is basically me on the ground and then going back into the plane. And on the Tuesday, I was like, I'm afraid of heights. I don't fucking want to do this. And I pulled the video, but we still needed the video to get done. So I rang my friend Jason, and I was like, I need a video this week. And he's like, have you got any concepts in your head? And I was like, I love the idea of doing like a Rocky themed music video where it all sort of leads to this big climax, and then it's just me getting sat on by a sumo wrestler. So it just like, you think it's going to be a big boxing match, and it's just, yeah, me getting sat on. So yeah, Jason pulled that together in about 3 days, and we shot it in Seattle, and then that's the video, and it's obviously gone on to be hugely successful. But you do always wonder, like, what would happen had I jumped out of the plane? Yeah.
You know, what I love is your curiosity and how you travel all over the world. I travel all over the world too. I just love meeting new artists, new scenes, the whole nine. And I think YouTube has made the world musically a little...
Absolutely. More so than anything else, I think, because I think so much of music around the world is visual, and it is like seeing cultures as well as hearing cultures. It kind of like marries the two together. So I think YouTube's like hugely important, even just for me discovering artists. Like if I'm in a country touring and I want to bring a local artist up on stage, it's usually YouTube would be the format that is, you can tell what the vibe is, you know?
That's what I was going to ask you. Of all, because I know you love having local talent support you. So of all the local talent that supported you, is there one that just jumps to mind that you were like, whoa?
Yeah, I mean, he's not necessarily local talent. I'd say he's like a global superstar. But Arijit Singh really blew my mind working with him. And he, you know, lives... It was sort of, I kind of like felt like a musical pilgrimage. I was with my dad in India, and we had a day off, and his studio is, you fly to Calcutta, and then it's a 5.5-hour drive down like a dirt road. And I said to my dad, I was like, should we just make a day trip out of this? And we went down to his and finished this record we have coming in 3 weeks. We've sort of done a Arijit version and a non. He's kind of on it a little bit, but yeah, working with him, like his voice is like otherworldly. And just him as a talent, he's sort of like is music. His aura is music. There's nothing else that sort of enters his space that isn't music. It was quite an incredible human being to be around.
Can you spend a couple of minutes telling us about the new album? Songs we should be looking forward to? Emotions? What's the palette of this album versus the last couple of them?
Well, the last couple were kind of quite heavy and about grief and depression and all sorts of stuff that, you know, like as I said, I play stadiums most weekends, and like when people go to my shows, they don't necessarily want to hear the heavy shit. They want to be like upbeat. But those were two records that I felt like had to be made at that time, just as a human. But this record, I say, is more like celebratory and explorative and working within cultures. I had a hell of a lot of fun making it. I mean, even just living in Goa with my family and having different instruments come in every single day and watch these sort of like masters of like one thing come in and play on the tracks. But yeah, it's, you know, we're in a world where you don't know whether stuff's going to do well or not. I love the record, and I'm putting out music, and if I sort of, in my mind, I'm like, one of them will go. Like there's an album of great songs, I feel, and I feel like one of them will show its hand and whatever, and you've just got to kind of put them out and let people hear them.
When you do these pop-ups, do you test drive these records?
Yeah,
and, how do you figure out which ones you think?
Well, it's kind of like it's sort of horses for courses. So like it just depends where you are. So this pop-up I did yesterday in Sheffield was with this DJ called DJ AG, and what he does is he sets up decks.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so like
he's a YouTuber.
Precisely. So there was I have a song that's the opening song on the album that is has more rap in it. So that was where I debuted that. Whereas I've been doing these like trad pop-ups, I guess, where one of my favorite things is going to you know, trad bars, and it's like the culture I grew up in, where you just sing and share songs and everyone sort of passes around a guitar in a circle. So I've been building this pub that's portable, and then taking that around the world and doing trad shows there. That's
why I brought you the trophy.
Yeah, and it's going to go in there.
For your Irish bar.
I reckon you could drink out of it as well. It's quite like, great. Thank you.
So why the theme of an Irish bar?
I think that, as I said, like I grew up, my dad's Irish, and I grew up going there 4 or 5 times a year, and that was my first experience of music and playing and sharing. And I think in trad jams, it's not really gatekeepery. Anyone can get up and have a go and have a sing, and that was where, you know, I first would have been on stage and sung songs. And last year, there's a pub in town called the Devonshire, and they do a trad night on a Tuesday. I think they do the trad night every night now, but last year it was on a Tuesday, and I just used to go every Tuesday and play, and I had so much fun doing it that I was sort of like, you know, it's in London, it's quite typical of London or Dublin, but you wouldn't necessarily find that in Denmark. So bringing it other places, I think, is quite interesting, bringing a kind of piece of my culture to everywhere that I go.
You brought it to Coachella recently.
Brought it to Coachella, yeah, which again was like, you know, that everyone was sort of like, what is this? You know, the first show we did there was like, I don't know whether people thought that they could have fun or not. And then the second show, people were like loosened up a bit more. And the third show, it was great. But yeah.
So, in terms of the album, are you actually performing it now, or is there a moment that you're going to present the?
Yeah, I'd say I'm performing as and when, just when I feel like it and when the songs feel right. I was in Mexico on Wednesday, and the place I was playing just felt like the right time to play a new song, and that's how I used to do it. You know, 16, 17 years ago, I just used to feel like playing a new song and play it. And I think the bigger that an artist gets, it becomes a bit more like you have to keep the doors shut at all times until the big release and whatnot. And I don't know, I think that the way that music's going now is it doesn't matter whether a song's like built up and comes out randomly, or there's like a video of it that's been on YouTube for a year as an acoustic video and then it comes out. I think that music is such a free-flowing thing now. It's less, you know, it used to be 15 years ago, you'd go up with a pre-order on iTunes and then you'd get it on radio for 6 weeks and you build up the thing, and it's just not, that isn't the way it works now. Everything is a lot more free-flowing, and I think that music is benefiting from that. There's obviously more stuff out there. As I said, there's more like attention being grabbed, but I think that the free-flowing of music allows for better creativity.
You know, when we were talking about Australia, wasn't it Taylor Swift that mentioned you, or was it the...
She'd written my lyrics on her hand touring Australia, and that's how I knew that she had heard my music, and then we linked up in America maybe 3 weeks after that.
And what was that other band that also talked about you in Australia? There was an English pop band or something like that?
I don't know.
I remember when we were talking in Austin.
That's 13 years ago though, Leo.
I know.
I can remember the gun conversation.
Okay.
That one like stuck out to me.
Is there an artist that if you met today, you would get a little queasy and excited to meet? Is there an
I
artist
get
that
starstruck with sports people, and I think it's because they do stuff that you can't do. There's something about meeting other artists where the veil has gone because you do the same thing behind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I definitely felt starstruck when I worked with Beyonce for the first time. But she has we were in a rehearsal and she was performing as if it was like headline set at Glastonbury, and I just remember being like, whoa. But like since then, really not really. I don't know. Footballers. I get sort of starstruck by footballers.
Do you ever go?
Do you actually? Let me ask you. Do you ever get starstruck? Genuinely, not like in front of the audience question, but do you actually? Because you strike me as a very like cool for school guy. Is there ever a point where you're like, oh my god, fangirling over someone?
So when we took Warner public, I called Jimmy Page, and asked him the stupidest thing in the world: would you play "Whole Lotta Loving" at the New York Stock Exchange? And I never met him, but he's catalogs on Warner.
Yeah.
And he said yes. And I met him at the New York Stock Exchange when we were taking Warner public. And he plugged in.
That idea.
What?
Did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, I came up with that idea.
Hell.
Stupidest idea in the world.
Surprised he said yes.
I'm surprised. He probably regrets it to this day, but it was, I was like mesmerized because my mentor, Ahmet Erdogan, was very important in his life, and he always talked about him. And
I wish I'd gone to that gig actually that they did at the O2 for him.
I brought my 4 brothers and my son to that gig.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you, Ed. You're going where? You're going somewhere. I'm going to Kyoto from here.
I'm not going to Kyoto, I'm going to Soho, but yeah.
Soho. Thank you, and we'll see you back in the next, not 13 years.
I'm around. Thanks for your time, guys.
Sooner than that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.